Hello and welcome to Making Creativity Pay, the podcast where we talk to people in creative industries about how they promote and market their work. I'm Dan Barnett. On this episode I spoke with comedian Hannah Morton. We talk about her experience at last year's Fringe with her show Cha Cha Real Smooth, and how the show about her experiences as a children's entertainer came about. We talk about promotion at the Fringe and the blurring between her and the character in the show. We also talk about her work with digital marketing as part of the team looking after the Glasgow International Comedy Festival, which is back next March, and her experiences going viral online. I started by asking Hannah to give a quick introduction about themselves.
Hey, I'm Hannah Morton. I am a jack of all trades in comedy industry and also don't make much money. So that's why we do it all. My main sort of thing is that I'm a writer of funny stuff that most of the time I perform. I'm getting really used to calling myself a stand-up now, which is terrifying. So I like to go by comedian. I also had some podcast stuff. So I was producing a podcast for a while. I produced my own shows and plays and things like that for years. I now currently work for the Glasgow International Comedy Festival, which is also a jack of all trades sort of situation. I technically run all their like digital content and things like that, which I didn't know I could do, but in that sort of actor way, like creative way, you went, yep, I'll figure it out and I'll do it. So then that also means like I do a lot of other stuff. I get to go see a lot of comedy shows. I get to talk to a lot of comedians. I get to get them to do silly things to camera, which is always fun. But yeah, just sort of one of those. I hate using the word creatives, but I guess that's what I am because I do a lot of stuff.
So kind of the ethos is say yes and work it out as you go along.
Oh, 100%. What do you need me to do? Ride a horse? I'll figure it out.
Yeah, because I saw one of your videos on Instagram saying you kind of almost going to stand up by accident.
Yes. Uh-huh. So I again, which is what my show that I took to the Fringe sort of touches on, is this sort of side hustle culture with a lot of comedians. I was talking to a comedian the other day, Chris Thorburn, who's like a great stand up, and he actually like designs a lot of posters for other comedians, and he like clips all their social media content for them, like for the stand and stuff like that. And he was like buzzing that he had that because he was like, it's better than like working in a bar. And I was like, oh yeah, like so I did loads of jobs, but one job that I got really, really good at was I became a kid's birthday party entertainer. And that was like one of my best pals was working for this company because he worked at Hamleys. He worked in the toy shop, and a guy came in like doing this, like running this sort of company where he did like kids' birthday parties. So Dan got involved, and then Dan, obviously as an unemployed drama student, was like, "Hey, I have loads of pals who could do this." So I'm on the weekends, and not a lot of the time now, but I'm really skint if I'm doing it. I'm Hannah Banana at the weekends. And what I realized, the thought of stand up really, really scared me. Like I was like, there's no wall, there's no like, I'm not really a punchliney person as well. Like I'm not a boom boom. I'm more like, here's a rambling monologue that is mildly amusing. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I could do stand up, like all this sort of stuff. And then what I realized was I have been doing stand up to 5-year-olds for the last 4 years. And they're a tough crowd. So if you can deal with that, so yeah, like fully tripped and fell into it, like was writing Cha Cha Real Smooth, which was sort of I couldn't I knew it was a one woman thing, and it was more than a monologue, and I wanted it to be this girl, this like really hungover kids' birthday party entertainer who's talking to the audience and treating you like you're at the kids' birthday party. Um, and I went up and did it for the first time at the comedy festival last year. Didn't workshop it, didn't get a director in, didn't do what stand-ups do and go do 5-10 minutes and figure it out. Literally wrote an hour, trusted my gut, winged it, and it went really, really well. And then I went, oh, I can do stand-up. I can do all this sort of stuff. So I've done it in the weirdest way, like a way that I would not suggest anyone to do who's listening to this. But yeah, that's sort of my shtick at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions I was going to ask was doing it at 5 o'clock. Is the energy different to your work in progresses? But maybe that's maybe you haven't got a work in progress to compare it with.
Yeah, so I did 2 work in progresses, which is also crazy for stand-up. Like, I filmed my second, work in progress. I don't know how it happened. Like, we got in at the stand, and we were doing it there. The one before was old hairdressers, um, and I was like, well, knowing what I know from like working in like sort of digital marketing for like festivals and stuff like that, the first thing I ask people is like, "Hey, where's your clips? Like, what do you have?" Like all that. So I was like, "Oh fuck, I don't have any clips." So I was like, "We'll film it. We'll do all this sort of stuff." And then don't get me wrong, I came off stage at the stand and was like, "Ugh." Wasn't my best. Like, I was really nervous, like, I forgot a bit, some bits didn't land. I was like, "Oh, how am I gonna use these clips? Blah, blah, blah." And ironically, the clips actually are doing really, really well. But, 5 o'clock was weird this year at the Fringe, actually. There was no science to when like, because you'll have when you're booking your Fringe show, you'll have loads and loads of conversations about, like, when should I put it on? When should I put it on? All my Fringe shows beforehand were always sort of stuck at, like, a 1, 2 o'clock, which was quite difficult, especially, like, sometimes that's when, like, actual kids' shows are on. So, like, you're trying to flyer a bunch of mums who can't come see your show, like, all this sort of so I was like, 5 o'clock, finally got it, like, prime time slot, and it was real hit or miss this year, and loads of people across the board were saying that. But then, like, I know people that were going to go see comedians at 11 o'clock in the morning, and, like, were just going because they liked them and that's the time it was on, so it really, really depends. I wanted sort of 5 o'clock, like, onwards, 'cause the drunk adults of it all in the audience, they are children, like, they are like, especially if because I get them to do, like, some of the games and the silly stuff, and I pick who the birthday boy is and get him up on stage and blah, blah, blah. Like, I want that energy in the room of, like the way kids are just, like, little drunk adults as well, eh, but I've wanted them just to be like, "Okay, we're gonna go for this. We're gonna shout out. We're gonna win prizes. We're gonna do this." So maybe that's also a business model for, like, maybe I go and do, kids parties for adults and get paid for that because they really enjoy it.
I guess there's finding a sweet spot.
Mhm.
You want them a bit up for it, but if you did the same show at 11 o'clock at night,
Oh
God knows what would
god,
happen.
no. That was it. I had one so we had the Oasis of it all during the Fringe as well. Oasis were playing, and because of that, it was a real weird so there was some days where you had no one in at your show because everyone was going to Oasis. And then one day, I don't think I had any ticket sales, and I walked in and there was like 25 people, which for the Fringe is crazy. So I was like, oh, right, okay. And 3, 4 people in the second row were the drunkest people I've ever seen in my life. Like, real, not my audiences, but my audience is either like middle class women who are mums who want to hear me complain about like kids and their husbands and all that sort of stuff, which I do quite well. Or like sort of millennials, Gen Zs, like sort of a bit quirkier side, I think, like seen me on TikTok and all this. And they were like quite needy, if that makes any sense. Like probably lovely people. They were having a lovely time. Like lots of turkey teeth and fake tan, and they walked in and I was pure, huh, I think you're in the wrong room. Like, I don't know how you've got here, but fine. And Gemma, I know she's called Gemma because she told me multiple times. Just kept shouting like through the whole show, like, play the cha-cha slide. And I was like, babes, like, I understand it's called cha-cha slide, and I understand we're like doing party games and stuff like that, but like it's not a request sort of situation. And then that was it as well. I do this whole thing about the songs that we play at kids' birthday parties are actually like slightly inappropriate. So I play the Macarena, I get everybody to do the Macarena, and I go like, listen to it, right? And pretty much at the end of it, you figure out that Macarena has been sleeping with her boyfriend's friends, is what the song is about. And so I go to like do that punchline, and I go, so it sounds to me like, and then like literally one of the guys from like the second row in this tiny little room just shouted out, she's a slag. And I was like, okay, like, and then Gemma was so drunk that she went to the toilet and just never came back. And I got told off the front of house staff that she was drunkenly on the phone to her boyfriend, like outside the venue, and telling them that she wasn't drunk. She just had only had a yogurt today because she's on Manjaro. So I was like, okay, that's the only, but it was like an assault course. Like I was like dodging them the whole time. So I'm pretty good with hecklers now, I think.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be signing up to the 11 p.m. slots, to
No.
be honest.
No. And in terms of promoting it, I mean, how much did you do online versus flyering and another, real world thing?
Um, so it's a tricky one. So this year, like I was really lucky. Like I had some funding. I wasn't doing it all off my own back, so we like got the big posters and things like that. Had the flyers. I would say like Edinburgh, like you need to flyer. Like it's what's happening. I would say as well, like so I was flyer. I'm so used to doing like my own shows that I was like, okay, I'll go out and flyer and blah 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 blah. But I didn't realize how hard it is to do when it's just you in the cast, like it's just you by yourself. Um, so there was a couple of days where I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Like this is soul destroying. And some days really works. Like you really talk to people, you do all this sort of stuff, and then you just never see those people. Someday, I think there was one day where I really wasn't well at the start of the Fringe. There was a sort of stomach bug going round. And so I was like, right, I'm just going to get through this. Like, I'm just going to like do the shows, fine. And I went round one of the beer gardens and literally just went like, I put a flyer down and like flyer down on every table and just whisper, hey, turns out she's really good and she's really skinny and really attractive, and then would walk away. But because I did it so fast, I was making people laugh and then like leave it. So I think that day like it really worked. Um but then it just hit or miss. And then like digital stuff. So like that's my whole job as well. That's why I actually like pay my bills with. And it like so I weirdly at the start of the Fringe had 2 TikTok clips that I put on my Instagram. Not even like my friends liked it. Like I think it was too long for Instagram and it wasn't pushing it or something like that. You can never guess these algorithms. Like you could literally like go and like have like big conversations about it and like literally be like, oh, and TikTok's changed it and they're pushing this and blah blah blah. And like fair play to those people that can do that. But it changes so fast in my opinion that you just need to like put out the content and see what happens. And so I literally put out these 2 clips like 2 weeks before not even 2, I think I put out one 2 weeks before that sort of slowly was like climbing, and then I put out another one and they were going crazy. Like still my phone is like every day there's like another thing, blah blah blah. Um and I was like, this is it. Like this is gonna be my Fringe. Like look at me with this audience. Nope, did not did not translate into ticket sales. I do think for stand-ups especially, like it is just like a clip game now as well, which is a bit of a shame because it's like there's lots of comedians who are going like, I don't want to burn through all my content. I don't want to. They're really smart people are doing like they're doing crowd work shows, so every day there's another clip, every day there's another thing. Stuart Mitchell's great at it. He's a Glasgow stand-up. He does loads of stuff in Blackfriars, and he has this Sunday show that sells out every single day now. People are getting like buses down to see him. My sister, who wants nothing to do with comedy, like I could literally be like, hey, do you want tickets to Frankie Boyle? She'd be like, nah, not bothered. She turned to me and she was like, hey, any chance you could get me tickets to like Stuart Mitchell? And I was like, how the hell do you know who Stuart Mitchell is? And it's because of all these clips. Like every single day he's putting out another clip. I think he's got kids, so he gets up at like 6 o'clock in the morning with the kids, cuts a clip, captions it, puts it out, sees what happens, and it's going crazy. So like as much as I have 2 very, very like sort of good number viral clips, it did not translate into ticket sales. But what did happen was I think because my hair, I'm quite recognizable. And so yeah, like at the Fringe I would flyer people and they'd go, oh sorry, we've got something booked, and then they'd be like, oh, you're that girl. And I'd go, yeah. And I'd get weird people started asking me for selfies and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, I'm not famous. Like I'm not anybody. And then we were on uh me and my mum and my 2 sisters were going to Spain like a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know if you know this, my mum is a quite famous Scottish actress. I'll just clang her name down. She's Elaine C. Smith. So the airport's mental for her. Like, it's just people just coming at her with a camera, being like, "Aline, it's your cell." Like, and because I don't look like her as well, I look like I'm just an angry PA that's standing next to her. Like, and I'll be like, "Actually, you need to ask first," like, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so even on the plane, there was people like coming back from the toilet and really wanting to talk to her and stuff like that. My mum's always like dead nice. But me and my mum were sitting on like the end of each row, and then the aisle was in between. And literally just as like my mum and my two sisters zoned in on whatever they were doing or like put their headphones in, this like young guy like came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. Are you Hannah Morton?" And I was like, "Yeah." But honestly, I thought he was going to be like, "Yeah, you're in the wrong seat" or something. But I was like, "Uh-huh." And then he was like, "Oh, by the way, like just to say, like I saw your Fringe show this year and I really loved it. And me and my friends are pure obsessed with all your TikToks and all this sort of stuff." And I genuinely went like, "Oh my God, like, thank you so much." And then he was like, "Oh, are you going to Alicante as well?" And I went like, "Yeah," and like pointed at like my family and went like, "Yeah, like with my sisters and my mum." And he literally looked at National Treasure Lindsay Smith and went, "All right, okay." Anyway, and started talking to me. And I was like, yes, like vindication. And I was like, "Oh my God." And then like I was so nervous that I realized he sort of was like holding an iPad, so I think he was wanting to ask for a picture, but I think because I was so taken aback, I just was like, "Oh, thanks very much. Nice to meet you. Bye." Like that was, and he walked away. And then I literally like turned to my sister and was like, "Oh my God, did you just see that?" And she was pure, "No, like what happened?" And I explained it, and she was like, then said to my mum and my other sister, like, pure, "Did you see that?" And they were like, "No." And I was like, "Did I hallucinate this?" Because no one else can verify that this happened. But I on it, like, it was so cute that, like, literally I was like, "Oh," like, that sort of, like, doing the online sort of digital soft marketing, putting your clips out, it's just like another touch of your face somewhere. Like, your face somewhere, and then you're on a bunch of mixed bills, and then you're doing a show, and then there's a poster, and then blah, blah, blah. But sadly for me, somehow it only hit, like, as the Fringe was ending, that, like, the people who actually wanted to buy tickets for the show from these clips then were like, "Oh, fuck, and the Fringe is over." And I'd be like, "Yes, I was on for 26 days. You could have seen me anytime."
Yeah, I mean, one thing I often ask people, quite a few people who kind of, for want of a better phrase, content creators, I know that's a thing, have videos and all that kind of stuff, is, yeah, how you deal with that, that one video will get 250,000 likes, another one will get
Mhm.
2,000, and you think, well, I've put the same effort in, or maybe even more, and something just doesn't hit. I mean, are you always then chasing that high?
Yeah, so I think, like, even with, like, the advice I give to, like, so many acts, like, everything is content, you never know what's gonna hit, like, blah, blah, blah. I put, like, 3 stand-up clips out for the show, and also you then start battling yourself with being like, "Am I just burning through all my clips?" Like, all this sort of stuff. I put 3 stand-up ones out, no, 4. 1 sort of really didn't hit, I then put out the other 2, they did, and then I was like, "Cool, we'll keep putting out clips," and then I put out another one, nothing. And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, so it does feel, and then, like, I've potentially got, like, management who are interested and stuff like that, and she was like, "Keep, like, just keep posting, like, just like blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, it's hard when, like, you're not I don't know, like, you're not a personality yet, so you're not an account that people are following because they like you talking to camera or, like, saying stupid stuff or blah, 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 that they've came in for this, like, very specific, especially my clips, like, I had, like, a costume that I was wearing, like, I dressed like a kids' party entertainer, which I'm now regretting that that's how I've started my stand-up career. But yeah, so it's like they've came for this very specific, they want to see more of that, and then so then to then go like, "Hey, like, what's the deal with bread?" Like me walking down the street, they're not interested in that. So it's like, but they could be, but I've now lost momentum because I'm going like, "Oh, I don't really know if anybody's interested in that," or like blah, blah, blah. So it is like you almost need to like really throw yourself into it and just be like, I am going to be this silly person on the internet, whether people like it or not. Like, whether that's what they want, whether like, it's stuff like Susie McCabe's great at it, like, she's really good. Susie McCabe, who I love dearly, posts posts like your mum or your auntie, right? Nothing is pretty or like curated or anything like that, but that's what her audience like from her. So she literally, like, if she's playing the Kings with Glasgow Comedy Festival, we can literally see how good her ticket sales go when she literally, like, takes out her phone, looks at like, goes to camera and goes like she'll literally be like, "Hey pals, that's the Kings on sale now. I think you should get tickets, blah, 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 blah." Posts a ticket link that's like this size over her face while she does it, and they go, "Yep, that's Susie, that's my pal, that's who's talking to me." So I just yeah, that's my advice for people, even though I don't take my own advice, is just go for it. Like, if you're willing to be this silly person on stage, go and just be that silly person.
And in terms of, going back to the Fringe a second, when you were flyering or whatever, did you flyer as you or Hannah Banana, or did you mix it up?
It's a tough one because it's like, how much self-worth do you want in your life? I think, like, if there'd been, like, a team of us, or, like, don't get me wrong, I had a producer and, like, all this sort of stuff, but, like, if I wasn't there on my own, I think I would have been, like, out in the polo top being like, "Hey, come to this party," like, all this sort of stuff. But actually, like, and I get it. I get the art of it all. Like, coming over and you're dressed as an alien and you're like, "Oh, like, come see this UFO show," and, like, all this sort of stuff. But, like, sometimes for you personally as a performer, that's a lot to do every day. But then also for that person that you're trying to engage, they're just having a pint. Like, they're going like, "Oh, okay, cool. You've now trapped me in this weird improv situation that I'm uncomfortable with." So I don't know, like, I would sort of try and like bridge that gap of, instead of just like handing out flyers, like, go over and be funny and be silly and like make them laugh a wee bit, but then be like, "Okay, I'm away now, like, enjoy your date." Like, what did I do? I did a lot of like, so I'd see like a group of girls like drinking and I'd be like, "Hey girls, like, I'm so sorry to interrupt this, like, really important wine time that you're having. Like, actually, I'm really jealous. Like, maybe I'll just sit down with you." But I was like, I do need to talk to you though, because, like, sadly, you are my target demographic. Like, I actually don't want to talk to you, but I sort of have to. So you already have made them laugh, like, because they go, "Well, what's the target demographic?" Like, blah blah blah. And then like I'd be like, "Hey, like, do you like to party? Like, do you," and then they all go like, maybe," and I'm like, "Well, you're in luck because I'm throwing a big kid's birthday party for for big kids, no kids allowed," is which I did need to specify. There was one day where, like, 2 kids showed up and I was like, "Okay, like, I hope we're okay with the F words because I say it a lot." But yeah, so it's like a hard one to do because, yes, I could have went out in the polo top every day and flyered that way, but is that maybe that's what, like, fringy people want? And if they're on the mile and, like, all that sort of stuff, they, like, want this big experience and stuff like that. But if especially for my audience, like, I was like, my audience is sort of, like, normal people wanting a laugh. It's sort of stand-up, it's sort of not. Like, so if you're, like, a genuine, like, stand-up fan and you like stand-up, me describing my show, you would have been like, "Oh, is that stand-up? Am I out of my comfort zone a wee bit?" So, like, I don't know. I'm also very Glaswegian as well. So, like, there's a bit in my brain that goes, "Oh, why would you do that? Like, why would you?" There's a Glaswegian, like, sort of, like, cringe with it that comes with, and as a creative person who does a lot of cringy things, there's always this voice in my brain going, "That's pure embarrassing. Like, why would you do that?" So it really just depends, in my opinion.
I was looking at your Instagram, you were doing a promotion with Specsavers. How was that? How did that look?
That was bizarre. Wonderful Colette, who runs PR for, or was running PR for Gilded Bloom, she's also, like, a close personal friend, and she was just talking about her friends who were running the PR for the Specsavers campaign and stuff like that. Um, they were wanting female Scottish comedians who wear glasses, right? And of course I wear glasses, like, me who wears contact lenses every single day of my life, but I was like, I could wear a pair of glasses. But just in that sort of, like, big PR way, they picked someone who is English, and Colette had to say, like, "By the way, like, she's English, she's not Scottish." Like, fully pick her, but if you're looking for, like, a Scottish act, wrong. And then so Colette just sent over, like, a big list of names, and I think I was at the bottom of this list. And I don't know if it's just because, like, I look fun. Like, I look quirky, like, my hair's crazy and all this sort of stuff. But, like, they picked me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." But I think maybe because I was, like, a newcomer, that they were like, "Okay, that's who we want to say that we're backing, and look at all this help," and, like, blah, blah, blah. Um, so I went, and the girls were lovely. But, of course, I'm a bit like, I'm here for the free pair of glasses, to be honest. But I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it, like, fine." And I honestly, I said to Claire afterwards, I was like, they loved me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't doing anything crazy, but, like, they were like, "Oh, try on the glasses," and I was, like, doing, like, actor faces, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, it's because, like, usually they're getting, like, I don't know, clients to do this or, like, the opticians to do it or blah, blah, blah." So I think the fact that I went in with this sort of, like, performance, they were like, "Oh my god, this is great." But honestly, I loved it. The free pair of glasses that I got as well. Um it was so much fun, and then, like, I didn't really realize, like, what they were doing it for, because it was just, like, any press is good press, like, whatever this is, even if it just was, like, in a newsletter to their mailing list, I was like, "Yep, my face is in something cool." And then, like, it turns out it was in, like, the Herald and stuff like that, like, this big press release, and I was like, "Oh, okay, grand." Like, did it help with ticket sales? No, but it was great. I also like Colette got like Colette, who is like a PR wizard, also got us on the radio. Why am I like BBC Radio Scotland? Len Penny was doing like a sort of like newcomer stuff. So it was me and Io, a Deniken, and then like another American act, and like of course like just me just being an idiot, like swore live on radio and stuff like that. And, like, literally Colette was like, "Hannah, I'm gonna stop getting you press opportunities." But like, it's one of those things, like, just say yes to everything. Even if you go, "A Specsavers campus," like, "What?" But I'm like, it was one of the best things I did, to be honest. Those photos, I will dine out on those photos for the rest. They're better than any 400 quid headshot that I've ever got. So I'm like, "I will be using those, thank you."
I was reading some of the reviews of the show and everything, which, we had some really good reviews. Just wondering, similar to the flyering question, how did you find being both you and Hannah Banana within the show?
It was a very fine line because I am Hannah Banana. Like, I am, like, sometimes I got put in like a character comedy thing. One day, someone like referred to me, like, they were like, "Yeah, because you do clowning in your show." And I was like, "Please don't say that because the clowning community is a proud bunch that would be after me if I said I was clowning." Um, it's more like I was like, Hannah, because the way we did the show was, like, it was almost like I was jumping in and out of, like, an actual party, and then, like, whatever sort of happened in that bit of the party that, like, I'm getting you to do stupid stuff or blah, 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 it was almost like then my internal monologue going, like, "Hey, like, what the hell was that?" Like, do a monologue about it, like, and but then because it sort of became stand-up, it was like, "Oh, she's doing this thing and she's doing a character, and then actually is the actual character herself?" Like, I was like, I really didn't think about it. I was just going, "This is a good idea. Like, why would I not do this?" So then, like, yeah, like, it's hard because I was like, it's not like I'm putting on a voice, it's not like I look different. Like, when I do kids' birthday parties, like, I am doing things that make myself laugh, like, and I've still got this hair and these stupid nails on and, like, rings and tattoos, and it's more that thing that actors and performers are able to do where you're literally just, like, switching this much, like, you're literally just, like, shifting a slight gear, and then you can do all this stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be this big. Which I respect the process, I respect, like, people who really go, like, "And this is the character," and, like, all this, but, like, I don't know, I think I'm very, maybe this is why I was very unemployed as an actor, is, like, the best thing that I am good at is, like, being myself. That sounds really, like, wank and stuff, but I'm good at being a funny version of myself, like, I'm good at switching it on. I'm good at, like, there's a whole bit in the show about, like, how I'm great at a hen do, and I'm literally describing play like, word for word, a hen do that I went on where I was able, and I think because of kids' parties and because I'm not afraid to be on a stage and because all this sort of stuff, like I walked into, it was like my sister's best friend's party. I knew like barely anybody. And literally it was like a switch went where I was pure, okay, I know how to do all these things and I know how to, and it was like all that joke of like, I'm desperate for someone to ask me to do karaoke. Like I'm desperate for someone to be like, oh my God, you should sing. And I'm like, no, not me. Whereas I'm like, go and put my name in. I know exactly what song I'm going to do. I know exactly my dance routine. Like, all like, I know that if they play the cha-cha slide, I will lead it. Like all that. And it is just like it's like a mindset that you switch in to be like, this is a show, let's do this, like blah blah blah. So Hannah Banana is not a character that like I've ever felt that had more thought than it should have been. It was just like she's just like the fun version of me, to be honest. And then I guess like because the switch into like me sort of doing like stand up bits and stuff like that, like some of it gets like a wee bit dark, like a wee bit like, and sort of because the whole theme was like she's hungover and she's like contemplating her existence of just being like, why the hell am I doing kids' birthday parties? Like, why am I doing this? And it's like there was stuff of like my mental health like last like sort of winter time wasn't great, and I did like the big thoughts that pop in your head as a performer are just like, if I'm this clown and I don't feel funny at the moment, then like who am I? Like, which is a terrifying thought for a performer. Because if I based my whole personality on being like funny and silly and like I'm great at a party and I'm doing all this sort of stuff, and then like I can't make jokes just now because like I'm very sad and depressed, then it's like, oh, then what's the point in all of this? So I guess like me actually saying the things that were in my head and not making jokes about them was scarier than being like a big silly character on stage.
Are there plans for it now, post Fringe? Are you gonna kind of do it again next year with, slight change or same kind of thing, or completely new show, completely start again?
So I really like to throw myself in at the deep end. So since Fringe, I actually haven't been doing like any stand up or anything like that since, because I was so burnt out after it. But I have literally just started like last week started like I agreed to this sort of like new material night, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'll come and do like what I've got in my back pocket, or like I'll write some stuff. And they were like, oh, by the way, you're headlining, and I was like, oh, I did not realize that when I agreed to this. But like, I've got 20 minutes in my pocket. Like, I've got an hour in my pocket if we really want to go there. Because they were like, oh, you can do like 10 or 20. And I was like, no, I'll be doing 20. Thank you. Like, try and get me off that stage. I hate doing 5 minutes. What can you say in 5 minutes? Nothing. But yeah, so I was like, oh, that's still there. The show is still there. And then the next night was like a proper new material night where like I had 10 minutes to do new material. And, like, I was actually able to, like, things that used to take me, because I was doing this whole, like, I'm a playwright process, things that would take me, like, a year to write, I literally was, like, sat down for an hour in my bed and wrote a bunch of stuff. Like, so my, this is usually when I start writing, so my life is a bit messy just now, like, right after the Fringe, me and my fiance broke up, and very messy. Other woman I found out because her daughter messaged me. Like, it was a whole bloody thing. But of course, like, my brain goes, oh, next year's Fringe show is going to be class. Like, the trauma that I am going to mine for this show. So I've literally booked, so Blackfriars in Glasgow, which is like an amazing comedy basement. I got in touch with Chris who runs it and literally was like, hey, like, I think I'm going to do like a double bill with myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do Cha Cha Slide again. People like that show, get them in, blah blah blah. And then like after that or before it, I'll do the work in progress show. And of course he's like, yeah, cool, like you can do whatever you want, you've booked your time. But I literally was like, oh yeah, this material is pouring out of me. And even with like, so that's Cha Cha Real Smooth, I booked when I was like really depressed, like last year. Because I was going, I know by the time March comes around, I'm going to be disappointed that I don't have a show to do. So I literally like booked it and was like, I'm going to book it. It's going to be funny. I'm going to write it. Maybe it's not funny at the moment, but there's all this stuff that I want to process and like do it. And I went up to beautiful place, Dunkeld, up in Perth, and literally like locked myself away for 3 days, banged it out, wrote it, and then was like, okay, cool, we've now got a jumping off point. So I think I'm going to try and do the more stand-up-y route this time of like, go and do 10 minutes of the new material, see if it works, see what happens, blah, 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 while sort of writing like the hour work in progress show. But I always work backwards as well, where like I start with a name. Like I start with the name of the show and a vague idea of what I want to do. So I think I think this weekend I'm actually gonna like take the poster image for the work in progress show and like make the poster, and like, because you need all that stuff to like sign your show up. So I'm going to write copy about a show that I have not written. But I'm heaving through the grapevine that that's what a lot of stand-ups do. So you just keep it like quite vague until you know what it is, and then you're like, it's fine. So yeah, Cha Cha Real Smooth is not dead. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing the material. But it is like, I've realised as well, where was that? I was doing like 10 minutes at the Stand. They were doing this thing called Whiplash. So it was like, if you had like a show that you were taking to the Fringe, like come and do a bit of it. And I went up, and it wasn't bombing, but it just wasn't, I think maybe I just wasn't as confident with it when it was like out of the show. And so I was like, ugh. And I sort of said to my pal after it, who's like a comedy producer, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm going to give it like 75%. Like I was like, I was 75% there. And then she was like, yeah, like, yes, you've written an hour, and that's more than what a lot of comedians have. Like they might not have an hour show. But she was like, actually, because you've only really been doing this since, when did I say, like last March, pretty much. She was like, you don't have the pool of jokes that other comedians do, where it's like when something isn't working, you can literally go like into the Rolodex and go like, oh, okay, like this. They'll like this. Oh, somebody mentioned this earlier, so I'll drop that in, like blah blah blah. So she was like, what you're doing is actually like really hard compared to like everybody else. Like you're literally going, this is the material I have, and you, whether you like it or not, I will be saying it at you. So hopefully the more I'm doing stuff, I think like I'll be able to like dip in and out of certain bits. So, and I would love to tour Cha Cha Real Smooth as well. There's like, is it Brighton Comedy Festival does stuff? I know there's a bunch of comedians who are going over to, is it Lisbon or something? I don't know. There's like, all of a sudden I'm seeing like comedians like signing up for this other stuff, and I'm a bit like, well, now I'm single and selling my house. World is my oyster.
We'll talk a bit about the Glasgow Festival in a little bit. But obviously, so you've got Edinburgh, the big thing, and you've got Glasgow, you've got Camden Comedy Festival around the same time as Edinburgh. You've got Women in Comedy Festival in Manchester. There's Cambridge.
I missed that this year and I was really annoyed at myself.
Yeah, there's Cambridge, Leicester, Faversham, Chelmsford. Everywhere's kind of got a festival. But obviously, being where you are, so many of those are a hell of a long way away, and so the time and money it would take to kind of do that. I mean, how do you find? Because I mean, I've had more by accident design. I've had an awful lot of guests on from Glasgow and Edinburgh, and it seems like there's a really nice scene up there, but it's then so far from everywhere else, which is probably a blessing and a curse in that it creates a nice scene, but take the show down south is then a big effort.
Yeah, so you sort of lose this audience that like you have here, and it's not saying like you need your mum to come to every show or whatever. But if you've got this sort of base of people that like might be friends of friends, like all this, to then go, I don't know, to like Brighton and literally just be like, hope people show up. Like that's terrifying. And don't get, I've done shows in Edinburgh where there was like 4 people in the room. And honestly, some of my best shows were like 4 people in the room. Yeah, there was like a day. So there was one day where I think I had loads of pre-books and like loads of people in, people that I knew who literally sat like on their hands, didn't want to get involved. I felt like I had them like this. Like I was like, you will find this funny. Like you will laugh at this. I got quite aggressive with them. And then like literally like, I think the next day I was like, oh God, I've only got 4 pre-sales. Like, this is going to be a bit humiliating, like all this sort of stuff. Best audience. Like, I could have kissed them. I was like, yous were so much fun. Yous laughed at everything. Yous were in this. And so, like, don't get me wrong, like, going down south to, like, then do that show, like, you just never know. And if that's then, and there's always that thing of, like, was it Morecambe and Wise did a show to, like, 3 people, and one of them was, like, a BBC producer. Like, there's always that story. So you just, like, never know who's going to be in the room. You never know who you're going to meet as well, like, especially when I'm working at Glasgow Comedy Festival. Here, there's, like, a real, like, Glasgow and Edinburgh, like, we sort of interchange, like, comedians, like, they come over, we go over, et cetera, and I think, like, it is then, like, solely disappointing for them when, like, their show doesn't sell well or, like, something. But there was a comedian, Judy Bloom, something like that. She came up, she literally just wanted to, like, be like, "What's happening here? Like, who's doing open mics? Who's doing" She was like, "I'm not bothered about my ticket sales. I got my room for, like, free pretty much because it was, like, in a bar. They just want drink sales." Like, she's like, "I'll be happy if, like, 10 folks show up, but actually I wanna come talk to you guys, and I wanna see, like, what your plans are. I wanna show my face around. I wanna do this. Where should I go?" And she just looked like she was having, like, the best time just doing the comedy. And I loved that I was like, "Yeah, like, that should be the sort of vibe of, like, if you are a sort of unknown and you're figuring this all out and, like, all this sort of stuff, you just wanna meet people. Like, you just wanna," like, even, like, with me doing that, new material night, it's a company called, like, a production company. They put on comedy shows. Good Egg, a guy called Ross Leslie runs them, and he's amazing. Um, he gave me my first stand-up gig and, all this sort of stuff, but I went with, like, new material and, like, sometimes, like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes there's, like, really established comics that you're sort of slipping in. I then feel a bit conflicted because, like, they probably know my face because I work at Glasgow Comedy Festival, and then, like, also the mum stuff, and, like, they might be like, "Who the hell's this lassie coming in?" So I go quite quiet in the green rooms and stuff like that because 'cause I'm a bit like, "Oh, don't embarrass yourself." And then there was this girl that I'd never really heard of before, Aussie girl. She was, like, my age, and, like, I came off stage and she literally was like, "Oh my god, like, you bossed that, like, you were so good." She then went on after me, annihilated the place, like, so good, like, so funny, and then afterwards I was pure, "Hey, can I follow you on Instagram? Like, can we be comedy friends, please?" Because I just was like, there's no one, not that there's no one, it's hard to find, like, when you're a newcomer, but actually, like, I'm a newcomer with all this sort of comedy experience behind me. So then sometimes when I go to the newcomer nights, I feel a bit like, "Oh, maybe I'm a step above this," but then I've just not shown my face around enough to then get, like, up that step. So the fact that I didn't know who she was, and then she was at a level as well, like, I literally was like, "Would it be weird if we met up and spoke about comedy?" Like, that sort of, like, pure, like, as if I'm trying to date this girl. Um, but I think, like, that's half the battle with, like, doing like, just say yes to everything. Do the comedy festivals, go down south, get gigs, do stuff, because, like, you never know who you're gonna meet and talk to and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, going back to the Glasgow Festival, yes, you're saying you're involved with behind the scenes on that. I mean, how much of a year? Because it's pretty much, is it a month or just under a month?
Just under a month, it's like 19 days or something like that. But yeah, it's big.
Yeah, but I mean, how much of the year? Because obviously, yes, you don't rock up a week before and start promoting it. It's a big long thing.
It is technically my sort of full-time job. Like, even it's like a freelance contract that, like, just because, like, I'm a performer and, like, doing jobs and I'm freelance, but it's such a small team that runs it. So there's 5 of us for, what was it last year? 562 shows or something like that. And a lot of them are open access shows, so you're not, like, specifically looking after them, but we've got, like, a big produced side of it. And so literally, like, the contract just keeps getting, like, bigger and bigger on each side, because I think the first year it was like I came on as, like, a sort of, like, digital assistant, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll make some TikToks and things like that." But I think, like, slowly we've all started to, like, branch out in our skills, and just, like, if something drops, someone else picks that up, like, that sort of thing. So then it's like Krista McDonald, who runs it, I think she's literally like, the longer I can keep people, the more, like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know exactly what we're gonna need you to do. But so I start it in September, and then I think I go to May, and then usually I have a little gap, and then depending on how much financial ruin I want to be in, I then go to the Fringe, and do that, or I work at the Fringe, which is, like, like, I would suggest to anyone, I wish someone told me this, like, 10 years ago. As an actor or, like, a, like, creator or whatever, you're told to, like, go work in bars, like, go, like, like do that and live your life while you're putting on your art and all this sort of stuff. The best thing I've ever done is work in the press and marketing office at the Fringe. If someone could have told 19-year-old Hannah to go become like a wee press assistant, like make no money, but actually that insight into the industry, not even like industry's too big a word, but just like how it works is amazing. I used to find like I'm dyslexic, so like admin was really difficult for me. Like signing your show up, I was like, oh god, and I can see it across the board with like other acts as well. That you get scared of it. You're like, oh, I don't really know how to do that. But actually, like sitting in an office with a wee like digital job, like yes, I'm making TikToks and posting memes, but actually like me realizing that like, oh yeah, before you come to the Fringe, have photos, film it, like know what your taglines are, like know all this sort of stuff. It's not that scary when you have all that information, but I almost had to like go like round the back way to like figure all this out. Love, love, love working at Glasgow Comedy Festival.
Yeah, we've had as previous guest Katie, who does brass tacks.
Oh yeah, Katie's
And
fantastic.
yes, and she seems the perfect person to be involved in that because yeah, she does seem to take those kind of bits for the people she works with,
Hmm.
and she seems totally amazingly well organized and just completely on it.
Hmm. Oh no, she like Katie's brain works in a way that no one's brain works in the office. Like everyone's like, so I'm dyslexic. Dean, who's just finished with us, he's like proper ADHD, like all this sort of stuff. Like me and Dean get on like a house on fire because our brains sort of work the same way. And Katie literally is the most organized person on the planet. And that's another bit of advice for any like creatives. If you can't be that organized person, find yourself a Katie Palmer. Like find yourself a producer who is which is hard. Like she's worth her weight in gold. That like someone Katie has no plans to ever be on a stage. Like she does not want to be on stage. She will not do karaoke with me. I'm very upset about it. But she wants to be like a part of it and wants to be that person at the side of it. Like she's a comedy nerd. She like would like is obsessed with it, obsessed with you, wants to do everything. So she's just like the best cheerleader and person to be like, hey, I need this from you and you need to do it now. And then you go, okay, cool, like that sort of thing. So yeah, to find yourself a Katie Palmer. This is what my advice is.
The Glasgow Festival, the comedy festival, it's kind of growing every year and it's getting bigger and bigger. Is there plans to expand outside of comedy? You don't want to necessarily step on the Fringe's toes or whether
Mhm.
that kind of event. But obviously, it's a comedy festival. Do you think it'll possibly branch a bit more out into other parts of the arts?
Potentially, I do like so. Like, obviously, this is like the opinion of Hannah Morton, digital monkey over here, not any of the brains of the operation. But I know Krista is really passionate about getting comedy the flowers that it deserves. Pretty much, like it's a huge part of like the Glaswegian like sense of humor. It's like a lot of like working class people go and buy tickets to stand up shows. They don't go and buy tickets to the ballet. And that's where a lot of the Creative Scotland funding is going, maybe not Creative Scotland, but a lot of like the government funding goes towards like operas and ballets and all this sort of stuff. And I don't mean in any way like that shouldn't be a thing, but there are comedians killing themselves to get like paid work and audiences and the work that the Stand have done for the last like a million years, what's happening in Glasgow and these like little basements and stuff like that is fantastic work. And it just doesn't really ever get like the props it deserves. So I think like anything we can do to like keep pushing that out. We do like a big comedy course every year for like women and marginalized genders because it is really hard as a woman to like if you've never done anything creative before, but you've sort of been told that you're funny, where do you start? Like, where do you like all that? So that's a fantastic thing that's happening. We really support Viv G, who is a comedy teacher, pretty much. Like, we anything Viv's doing, we're like, like, do you need a hand with? Or like, just always interested in what she's doing and who's coming out of her classes. We've done like really really weird stuff as well. Like, we did like a big cycling event in the first year. I think it was something to do with there was like cycling coming to Glasgow. I know nothing. There was a big cycling event coming to Glasgow. So then, because we work quite closely with Glasgow Life, and it's all about like sort of trying to make Glasgow like a healthier city and all this sort of stuff, we then did this like big cycle that then there was comedy at the end of it and stuff like that. There was a comedy show at the end. And so I think like anything that is viable for us to get our hands on and do stuff like why not? Like just do it, just see what happens. But it is just sort of logistics and funding and like all that. So like half the battle, which is I think sad for like Krista who runs it, is she needs to like maybe like not be as boots on the ground as she wants to be, so that then we can like send away big forms to get funding to then do this like all like so it's a catch-22 constantly.
Yeah, I think if I remember rightly, I think there's a bit of controversy about the cycling stuff. I don't know if it was that event or something else, maybe in Edinburgh, where it gets a ton of government funding for that kind of stuff. But then, yeah, comedy. I know there's things going on in Ireland as well about kind of just recognizing comedy as an art form, which
Yeah.
seems daft that it wouldn't be.
Yeah, I can't really comment on the cycling stuff, but I just know in general, like from my own experience of like, so like during COVID, there was like Equity was giving out like sort of grants, and Creative Scotland were giving out grants to like people who had like lost out on creative work and all this sort of stuff. But like me and my friend were really laughing, being like, "Well, thank God we didn't have any work anyway, because like thank God we were really unemployed as actors because we wouldn't have got those fundings." But one of my best friends, Dan, who I started doing kids' parties with, he is from Skye. And so there's a whole thing in Skye in general where like there's no creative arts. Like there's no money put into anything up there. They're losing like sort of like community centres and things like that where these things would be happening. And Dan noticed that even without COVID, the nearest panto which every family went to was Inverness, I think, was the nearest place to go for a panto. So we always like I've been to Skye more times than I could say, and it's always in the dead of winter, which is great. Is because Dan would get us to like bring a panto up and put it on, and they had like is it the Arrow Centre, which is like a big sort of multi-purpose, like it's a cinema, it's a theatre, it's all this sort of stuff. There's loads of stand-up on it now actually. So like we were always doing this, and then obviously COVID hit. Dan was like, I think we could still sort of do something, was looking into it. And he just got in touch with Creative Scotland to be like, hey, like, what's my options here? Like, that was it. He was like, I'm looking at putting on a panto in Skye, an underfunded area that doesn't have a big arts community anyway. And it's during COVID. They can't all drive down to Inverness. So what we're going to do, and it honestly was a fantastic idea, what we're going to do is we're going to hire a truck bed that is our stage, and people are going to drive in like a drive-in panto, and all our mics came through their radios and stuff like that. It was fantastic. It's one of the best things I've ever been a part of. And he just went to Creative Scotland being like, hey, I'm going to do this. Could you, maybe this isn't for you, but could you point me in the right direction? And what came back was a very like official email to say, hey, we don't fund, what is it called? Commercial theatre. And Dan was like, okay, I'm going to say this all again to you. Like, I'm going to say, underfunded area, we're not getting paid for it. COVID's, like, no arts here, like, all this sort of stuff. What part of this is big budget King's Theatre, pantomime, like, Elaine C. Smith in the lead role? And they were just like, yeah, we don't fund that commercial theatre. And then he was like, okay, panto is one of the only things in Scotland that working class people buy tickets for. They will literally, and when it is on at the King's and it's 40, 50 quid a ticket, and they've booked in advance, they've paid for the granny, the auntie, like the kid, they bring the whole family every year. It is the only piece of art that a lot of working class people go to every year. And you are not funding that. You are not funding it in its purest form. And he went a bit mental about it because he was just like, what is going on here? And on like stand-up is sort of in that same thing where it's like, yes, you can see that like there is Live at the Apollo and there is Kevin Bridges selling out the Hydro and all this sort of stuff. But actually stand-up is, like, one of these things that, like, you can do for no money. Like, you can literally go and do it at the back of a bar, and there's no props, and there's no lighting, as long as you've got a microphone. So it's probably the most accessible art form for a lot of people. Like, a lot of working class guys do it. There's loads and loads more, like, sort of middle-aged women who are coming into it, like, later on in life, who would say, like, "Oh, no, I'm not creative, I just do stand-up," and it's because it's not seen as the art form that I think it is. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, that was a very long tangent for you there, but that's my opinion on that.
No, that's great. Just to finish, talk a little bit about Sad Girls Club podcast.
Mm.
I know it's been a while since this
Yes.
episode came out, but I mean, how did you find the process of doing it?
So, again, like, I had to wear many hats to do it, which I think is why I maybe got a bit depressed over Christmas. So it was my idea, and we'd done the show, and the show was like a real play, but like a comedy play, and we had this sort of following. We had loads of girls, like, every time we put it on, girls coming back and bringing their friends because everything was like, "Oh, I felt like that. I know that." Like, I people really identifying with it. So then I was sort of like, I think a couple of people had said, like, "Have you thought of a podcast?" And I was like, "Oh, maybe." And then I had been on Darren Connell's podcast to, like, promote Sad Girls Club, and I got in touch with him, and I was like, "How do you do this?" And he was like, "Get in touch with Paul at Green Room. He films it all, he sends it to you, he puts it out for you." So he's, like, doing the actual legwork of it and all this. But the producing side of it, which I'd done for, like, shows, like, loads of times, like, organising stuff, it's not my forte, but I can do it. And don't get me wrong, trying to organise 4 girls' schedules is like herding cats. Like, that was always every week I was like, "Right, who's available? Do I even want to ask this question?" But the actual doing the podcast was the easiest thing I've ever done. The actual, like, showing up, talking, I would sort of go like, "Here's the theme this week." We would start every podcast with like, "Hey, have you cried this week?" And then somebody would be like, "Oh yeah, I cried in Big Tesco." Like, "Oh yeah, like I did this." And then, like, sometimes we're like, "Yeah, we've cried because, like, have you seen the state of the world and the Gaza Strip," and like all that. So it wasn't as if it was this big, light, fluffy thing all the time. But I like that sort of, that, like, women, I think it's stuff that we sort of touched on in the show, of like, sad is sad and that's okay. Like, sad can be like the big feelings, the wee feelings, but women sit and, like, beat themselves up for being sad when she's actually got sadder things to be sad about, and it's actually just my boyfriend's broken up with me, and really I shouldn't be sad about that. And it's like, nah, if you're sad, you're sad. But, like, especially when I'm sad, like, I'm also cracking jokes while I'm doing it, which makes people very uncomfortable. Um, which I'm like, well, sad is also funny. Like, why have I just had an absolute breakdown in the Tesco car park because, like, a man, like, shouted at me about my trolley? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you go like, "What is happening here?" So the podcast was sort of like that. So I loved doing it. I had all the skills to, like, clip it up, get it on YouTube, put clips out online. Like, we had a real burst of followers after. It was like one of our first podcasts where we ended up talking about, like, the pill, like the contraceptive pill. And my pal Amy told a story about, like, she very specifically said, somebody was like, "Oh, I've had to come off Cesarizet," or something like that, which was, like, the brand. And then she literally, like, turned around quick as a flash and was like, "No, you wanna know what my beef with Cesarizet is?" And went on this whole rant about the fact that she's got a dairy allergy, like, really, really allergic, and couldn't figure out the whole time that she was on it why she was going so crazy, and her skin was breaking out, she felt sick all the time. And it wasn't till she went back to the doctor, like, a year later, they were like, "Oh yeah, that did no one tell you there's dairy in this?" And she was like, "No," like, went mental. And I clipped that up, put it out online, and the amount of women that literally were, like, tagging each other, going like, "Oh my god, this happened to me. That pill sent me crazy," like, all this sort of stuff. And it is like, you know what I mean? Like, in comedy, it's like the whole thing for years and years and years is like, women can't talk about women's issues in comedy, or you can't talk about your periods because then men don't want to listen to it. But it's like, well, I've never been on the shipyards, but I still find Billy Connolly funny when he talks about the shipyards. Like, so, like, that sort of thing. But then it is going like, well, yeah, maybe this isn't for guys. Like, maybe they don't want to listen to it, but funny's funny. And talking about oh my God, this thing happened in like, and it's a very specific, like, niche thing. But I sort of was like, oh yeah, there's like an audience for it. Like, even with the show as well, that there's this huge audience of women going like, no, I have felt that, and I have felt mental, and I have cried over a tiny wee thing, and I have got too drunk, and but then at the same time, like, I've had guys come to the shows who literally it was like my ex-partner's flatmate came to see Sad Girls Club when I was on at the Fringe, and it was almost like and it wasn't like hit you over the head with a feminist stick or anything like that, but he literally came out and sort of went, like, turned to them all and was like, "Guys, I think we have a lot to learn from that show." And it was as if, like, his little tiny brain was, like, blowing. He was like, "Hey, women are people too." It's like, "You know what? Now that I've seen that, I have invented feminism, and I'd like, don't get I'm quite happy for, like, guys to come and go, "Oh, wait, yeah, like, that is true, or that is funny, or, like, blah, blah, blah." But just so, like, I've had a lot of men that I think I'm converting into feminists by just making jokes at the same time.
There we go. That's a good place to finish. Women are people too.
Thanks to Hannah for coming on the podcast. You can find out more details in the show notes about Hannah's new show, Crushed, the Glasgow International Comedy Festival, the Sad Girls Club podcast, and more. If you enjoyed this, check out our other episodes of a variety of comedians, musicians, authors, and others in creative industries talking about trying to make creativity pay. Thanks for listening.